Today, we're getting into the psychology of dealing with those incredibly draining people in our lives. We're going to cover 5 very specific psychological triggers you can use that, honestly, make them just disappear.
If that question hits home, then you are in exactly the right place. That feeling, that dizzying confusion where you're suddenly the villain in a story you never even auditioned for, yeah, that's a huge red flag for manipulative dynamics.
But here is the really good news. You can make a powerful shift. We are going to break down 5 specific psychological triggers that do more than just help you cope. They actually make these personalities want to leave you alone. You ready? Let's jump in. So here's our game plan. We've got 5 triggers we're going to walk through. First, stop over-explaining everything. Second, don't give them that emotional reaction they're looking for. Third, set one super clear boundary. Fourth, become way less available. And finally, number 5, learn how to use silence like a superpower.
Okay, first up, we are diving right into the manipulator's favorite playground, your very reasonable need to explain and justify yourself. Let's talk about why you have to stop.
So there's this concept called self-justification fatigue, and you probably know exactly what this feels like. It's that bone-deep exhaustion you get from being stuck in a loop, constantly defending your choices, your feelings, who you are. Manipulators absolutely love this because as long as you're busy explaining yourself, they're the ones in control.
So here's the move. The second you just give a simple no or "and I'm not going to discuss this anymore," and you don't add that long essay explaining why, you take away all their ammunition. You literally remove their ability to twist your words and back you into that familiar guilt trap.
All right, our second trigger. This one builds directly on what we just talked about. It is all about cutting off their fuel supply, and you do that by not reacting emotionally.
The psychology behind this is fascinating. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and the best way to think about it is like a slot machine. A manipulator will poke and prod and push your buttons just waiting for that payout. And the payout? It's your emotional reaction. Because they don't know when they'll get it, they just keep pulling that lever, over and over. Your anger, your tears, your frustration, for them, that's the jackpot. So this is absolutely crucial. You have to starve them of that energy. When you start responding with calm, maybe even boring, factual statements, you just aren't fun for them anymore. You've become a broken slot machine. So they have no choice but to wander off and find a new one that pays out. Okay, trigger number 3. This is such a powerful tool for taking back your space, setting boundaries. But here's the secret. It's not about building a giant fortress of rules. It's about harnessing the power of just one. You really don't need 100 different rules. Honestly, that's overwhelming for you and it's just easy for them to attack. Instead, you just start with one. One simple, clear, non-negotiable boundary. Something like, please don't call me after 9 p.m. That's it. Simple.
You see, toxic people run on intensity. They want those big, loud arguments and dramatic reactions. Your power is the exact opposite. It's consistency. You don't get pulled into the drama. You just calmly enforce the consequence. If they call you after 9, you just don't answer. Every single time.
And look, at the end of the day, they're probably not going to like your boundary, but they will be forced to respect your consistency. That's what teaches them that the rule is real. It's not going away.
Okay, on to our 4th trigger. I like to call this one the art of the slow fade. This is all about you strategically and quietly becoming less available to them. The psychological principle here is something called behavioral extinction. It sounds fancy, but it's a really simple idea. Any behavior that stops getting rewarded will eventually just stop happening. And in this case, the behavior is their drama and manipulation, and the reward is your time and your attention. So you just stop being the first person who texts back. You might find you're busy when they call needing to create drama. You're slowly, quietly turning off the faucet. There's no big announcement, no confrontation. You're just not there as much. Their behavior doesn't get its reward anymore, so it starts to fade away. And that brings us to our 5th and final trigger. This one might just be the most potent, but it's also the most misunderstood. It's the careful use of silence. And let's be clear, this is not the silent treatment. This is what we call a detachment response. The difference here is everything. The silent treatment is a weapon. It's designed to punish someone. A detachment response, on the other hand, is a shield. It's a quiet, internal shift that basically says, your chaos doesn't even show up on my emotional radar anymore. And this is exactly why it's so incredibly effective. A manipulator's whole world is built around managing and getting reactions from other people. When you give them nothing, no anger, no long explanations, just calm silence, You take away all the mirrors, and all they're left with is themselves. For a lot of them, that is the one thing they cannot stand to face.
So, when you start putting all 5 of these triggers together, what you're really doing is starting this final massive shift in the entire power dynamic.
Ultimately, it comes down to seeing the patterns for what they are. When you can actually put a name to the behavior, yep, that's gaslighting. Oh, that's love bombing. There's that guilt trap again. You see the formula. You can see the game. And once you see the game, you can simply choose not to play.
And let's completely reframe this whole thing. This isn't about you losing a person from your life, it's about them losing access. They are losing access to the version of you that they could control. The one who would always over-explain, who would react emotionally, who had weak boundaries. That person is gone.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one for you to think about. By putting these triggers into practice, what version of you will they lose access to? And maybe more importantly, what stronger, calmer, and more powerful version of yourself will you finally get to meet?